Okay, so Wes Huff has decided to chime in on the looks maxing conversation. We're gonna look at some of his posts here in a second, but if you guys aren't familiar with looks maxing, oh man, I'm sorry you have to learn about this from me. This is a creator named Clavicular. Clavicular's an interesting guy. He is like the new Sneeko meets Andrew Tate, but autistic. And is not a dig at him or autistic people. That is him self-professed as someone that is neurodivergent and autistic. Comes out of his own mouth. And yeah, let me give you guys an example of what looks maxing is. This is from Willie Max Show, who did a great job breaking all of this insanity down. If you want to go do a deep dive on it, and then we'll look at what Huff did with responding to some of this. So check this out.
This man Clavicular has gone mega viral for his black pill content, meaning that the only thing that matters in life is your looks.
I maximize all metrics of my life. I've just come to the conclusion, based on anecdotes, based on numbers, that looks are the most important metric.
Who's gonna win?
Okay, so looks are the most important metric. All right, but it's not that. It's not the what. It's the how. It's the how, ladies and gentlemen. Okay, then his take goes on to say that he thinks that if J.D. Vance and Gavin Newsom ran for president, because J.D. Vance is fat, Gavin or Newsom or Governor Newsom would win.
This is fat.
Who's gonna win? It's gonna be Gavin Newsom against J.D. Vance because J.D. Vance is subhuman and Gavin Newsom mugs.
J.D. Vance is subhuman? What makes you say that?
He's got a very short total facial width to height ratio. He's obese, very recessed side profile, whereas Newsom is like...
He's unironically just torching the vice president of the United States, and I don't know if this is like if he's doing a character here. It doesn't seem like a character, and he thinks that I guess Governor Newsom is Moggs and is alpha something.
6'3" Chad.
Charlie Kirk gets murdered wouldn't have happened if he was more handsome.
Would Charlie Kirk have gotten assassinated if he were Chad? Well, probably not, and here's why. Good-looking people experience something called the halo effect, so it's quite possible that if Charlie were to be better looking, someone wouldn't have hated him enough to assassinate.
This is insane. Good-looking people have the... I mean, maybe there's some truth to the halo effect idea, but to say that this wouldn't have happened to Charlie Kirk if he was better looking? Hey, this might be the most important thing I say in this video. I think a lot of us have been in seasons where we're trying to figure out, what am I actually supposed to be doing with my life? Like, we want to be faithful, we want to build something meaningful, but it's hard to get real clarity on our purpose, our direction, and what God's actually calling us to do. And if you've been struggling to figure that out, to get clarity, that's exactly why I'm doing the Godly Ambition Tour. We're kicking this off April 10th in Chicago, then April 12th in Pittsburgh, and these nights are designed to help you get clarity and actually move forward. This is what my book, Godly Ambition, is all about. It's currently a USA Today bestseller, and I wanted to bring these ideas into a live experience. I'm doing a full keynote, breaking this down and going deep. We've got new music, a live podcast. I'm taking your questions in the room, and I've got a few things up my sleeve for the night too. So yeah, I love seeing you guys in the comments. I love the chat, but this is one of those things where being in the room is just gonna hit different. So tickets start at $35. And if you wanna go even deeper, we've got premium tickets that include a private Q&A before the show. After Chicago and Pittsburgh, we'll also be hitting DC, New York, LA, Atlanta, and Tampa, so we might be coming to a city closer to you. But don't wait, go to RuslanKD.com or hit the pinned comment and get your tickets now. I'll see you in the room.
This might be an insensitive video to make, but I'm really trying to bring awareness to how brutal.
I told you guys he was autistic.
I spent a lot of time on this forum called looksmax.org. There's instructional videos on it explaining how you have to have a warrior skull or else you're prey, which...
Warrior skull?
Like, damn, dude, looks...
Hey, Willie Mac, it's all right, bro. It's all right, man.
Like I'm prey. It's the male version of Instagram models that make you feel insecure. He's posting about how he's on 4 steroid cycles at 18 years old.
Oh my gosh. The absolute best stack I've ran as follows. Testosterone. I don't even know how to say that word. Anathenate. 550 milligrams weekly. Masterone, anathenate, 200 milligrams weekly. Aromission, when needed, usually 5 milligrams. This dude is injecting all this when he's a teenager. Okay.
About how he's on 4 steroid cycles at 18 years old. You got a bone smash to swell your face up so you look more like handsome Squidward.
Yo, does bone mashing work?
Bone smashing, yeah.
You may have thought that the testosterone as a teenager is the worst thing. That's not. There's this other thing called bone smashing. I'm going to get to the Wes Huff response to this in just a second. And he's not just responding directly to Clavicular, but to the idea of looks maxing in general. I'm just using Clavicular as the most obvious example of this. So we're gonna get there, okay?
Yo, does bone mashing work?
Bone smashing, yes. Bone smashing is one of my all-time favorites.
How does that work? Did I low-key break that down?
I would just lay down in your bed, brace your head, and then just punch like this.
Brace your head and punch like this, ladies and gentlemen. Oh, man, I don't like it here. We've entered peak brain rot.
All right.
If my jaw looks a little weak, I'll bone smash to strengthen it.
And this is like a Nike commercial. Like, who shot this for him?
My ratios are nearly golden now.
It's funny that looks maxing has taken
My ratios are nearly golden. I feel so bad for this kid. Now, again, last week we covered how he acknowledged that Jesus is a historical figure, Messiah. He thinks religion is a net positive. However, he knows that there are some things in his life that are sinful he doesn't want to give up.
off in the red pill space because they're essentially one step away from just being drag queens. In fact, he literally did a runway walk. He wears makeup to cover up his acne.
Yeah, makeup maxing is good looks max, though. I've never had this much acne in my life, bro. Yeah, this is so bad. The trend is just like 2 days in, my skin starts breaking out like crazy.
His friends wear wigs and fake muscles. They're saying that he actually does better runway walks. And it's like doing a demonstration.
Go walk right there. That's how you do a walk. That's how you do a walk.
The Manosphere has 2 people giving advice on how to model. One of them wears makeup and the other one is a cut.
So that's what looks maxing is. All right, now let's hear the adults in the room. Which, by the way, I have a practical takeaway for you guys that are here that are fans of Clavicular. Okay, so Wes Huff says recently watched Netflix documentary Inside the Manosphere. I have not seen it yet. I heard it's good. And I feel like Netflix is just a little late on this. Like, had this came out a couple years ago, it probably would have crushed even more. I don't care enough. I got Manosphere exhaustion. He says, and along with a few other viral characters in Looks Maxing community, couldn't help but think how sad it all is. Scripture particularly warns against vanity rooted in pride. Pride precedes ruin, and arrogance of spirit leads to downfall. Proverbs 16:18. Let's look this up. So this is Proverbs 16:18. Pride goes before destruction, a haughty spirit before fall. Let's look at the NLT. Pride goes before destruction and haughtiness before fall. Okay, so slightly different. All right, and he says, which God resists the proud, but gives grace to the humble. James 4:6. I'm sure many of you guys know that. Not a single thing should be done from selfish ambition or vanity, but rather through humility, considering others superior to oneself. Oh, Wes, you queued this up for me so well, my brother in Christ. So check this out. When we go to this passage, right? Do nothing out of selfish ambition or vain conceit. Rather, in humility, value others above yourselves, not looking to your own interest, but each to the interest of yourselves. Okay, so we look up the original Greek in our trusty Logos Bible software, which they're giving all you guys a free 60-day trial, is a Greek word for ambition, which is edetheia. It is a selfish ambition, contentious ambition, an ambition to get it by any means necessary. It's like the 50 Cent get rich or die trying type of ambition, right? And the interesting part is this is only used twice in the New Testament, okay? But for those who are self-seeking or selfishly ambitious, right? Romans 8, for those who are self-seeking and who reject the truth and follow evil, there will be wrath and anger, and then here in James. And so the scriptures clearly forbid selfish ambition. But I wrote a book called Godly Ambition. I'll tell you more about it later. Let's keep going. Though the Looks Maxing community masquerades as a masculine movement, I can't help but read scripture's warnings to women and their preoccupation with looks to be relevant to the group. I think Wes just called all y'all gay. No, I'm just kidding. He called all y'all sissies. Called all y'all girls. Okay, the Bible is clear that charm is deceptive and beauty is vain, but the woman, or in this case, men who fears the Lord will be praised. Ornament should not be external, elaborate hairstyles, gold jewelry, or fine clothing. Dare I add jawline, hairline, and muscular silhouettes, as discussed in 1 Peter 3-4, but rather inner character. The Pharisees practiced their works to be seen by others, loving the best places at banquets and greetings in the marketplace, illustrating how vanity corrupts spiritual practice. God told Samuel not to look at appearance or height, because while humans see the exterior, God sees the heart, right? And that story is amazing. You see Saul was, they said, I want to say the scripture said that Saul was head and shoulders taller than all the other men, and then David was the youngest of the brothers, and yet God exalts David, right? And that was his king because Saul, wandered and strayed. The wise, strong, and rich are warned not to boast in their accomplishments, redirecting glory towards God alone. I'm reminded this morning to pray for the lost, poor, and dangerously unfulfilling sad figures at the head of these particular movements. Yes, these brothers need our prayer. They probably need a little bit of pushback and ridicule as well, but they ultimately need our prayer, and Clavicular is no different. And this whole Looks Maxing thing really is sad, in my opinion. But here's the good news. There is a pathway forward where you could just take care of yourself and not be a weirdo who puts on makeup and takes testosterone when you don't need it and smashes yourself with a hammer, Okay, there is another way forward. And the funny part of all this is coming, if there's anyone that exemplifies this, Wes Huff, ladies and gentlemen. This man is in great shape, right? Takes care of himself. Everyone's always asking about the arm routine. I got the arm routine, ladies and gentlemen, but I'm not gonna share it. Okay, I'm not gonna share it. He told me it's top secret, so lips are sealed. But I say all that to say there are people who are taking care of themselves, and it's less about the vanity looks maxing aspect, and it's more about the heart behind stewarding your body that actually becomes attractive. And obviously, if you're single, you want to attract a female and you want to be attractive to a female. And that honestly is on the byproduct, not looks maxing, but just stewardship and taking care of yourself. And yes, that could be including things like strength training, proper nutrition, going outside, touching grass, moving your body, 10,000 steps a day, reducing body fat, increasing lean muscle. All of those things can make you more attractive, but they should not be the end goal. They should be the byproduct of a heart around stewardship and a heart around, I want to honor God with my body. I want to honor God with this body that I've been given. Why? Because it's ultimately not my body. It's God's body. Now, remember I told you guys this word for ambition is aletheia, or vain conceit, and it's only used twice in the New Testament. But there's another word for ambition, which is this one found here. And make it your ambition to lead a quiet life. You should mind your own business, work with your own hands, just as we told you, so that your daily life may win the respect of outsiders and so that you will not be dependent on anybody. I'm gonna be honest. I think if men were honest, this is actually what they want. This life here, a quiet life, mind your own business, work with your own hands, so that your daily life may win the respect of outsiders. We want to be respected, and we don't want to be dependent on anybody. Now check this word out. When we go into the Greek, and again, Logos is giving all you guys a free 60-day trial. I do my daily morning reading on here. I'm going through the Bible in 2-year plan right now. All my reading happens on here because of these tools. So here this is. The other word for ambition is not aletheia. It's not a selfish ambition. It is
Philotimeume.
Philotimeume. Now my Greek is not great, but philotimeume means having as one's ambition, consider it an honor, to aspire. And then check this out. Here, it's connected to love, to seek after honor, to be ambitious. And it's used 3 times in the New Testament, okay? Now, here's the cool part. We go a little deeper. We discovered that the root philios is friend or love. It's like where we get our word Philadelphia, brotherly love, the city of brotherly love, right? And then timome, or time, is the other aspect of the word. So this is a different type of ambition. This is not the aletheia, selfish ambition. This is an ambition that loves, that honors, that makes the most of one's time, right? And this is a great word for young men to learn. Philotimeume. And then when you go in deeper, we discover Romans 15:20. It says, Paul says, it's always been my ambition to preach the gospel where others haven't, right? Where it's not known, so that I would not be building on someone else's foundation. So Paul had a godly ambition to preach the gospel where others haven't. In 2 Corinthians 5:9, he says, so we make it our goal or our ambition to please him, whether we are at home in the body or away from it. And then the 1 Thessalonians 4 passage. Isn't it interesting that the negative word for ambition is only used twice in the New Testament, and the positive use of ambition is used 3 times in the New Testament? So people who want to maximize or utilize or be faithful or good stewards with what they've been given, it's interesting that you see that more than you see a rebuke of ambition, selfish ambition, right? I wrote a whole book about it, and I think it's one of the most important conversations we could be having right now, is this tension of like, hey, I feel like I'm called to do something greater. However, I don't know what that looks like, and I don't know how to navigate that. Man, I'm turning on the news and the radio and the podcast, and all the media is telling me that I'm stuck and I can never get ahead, but I know that God has something else for me. These are good tensions to have. And the good news is I developed an entire framework for this in the book Godly Ambition that I wrote. It's become a USA Today bestseller, and it's helped tens of thousands of people start to get clarity on these very topics. And I'm taking this entire thing on the road, and we're launching the Godly Ambition Tour starting April 10th in Chicago at the Park West venue, an amazing theater. And then we're hitting multiple cities After that, I will be in Pittsburgh on April 12th, April 25th, we're in the DC area, April 26th, we're in New York at Sony Music Hall, and then after that, we're going to Tampa, Atlanta, Los Angeles, and after that, we're doing Dallas and Houston, and tickets start for about $35. So this conversation is being turned into a live experience built around this biblical framework to help you get clarity on your calling. I'm going to walk you through that step by step in a keynote. Then we'll do a live podcast where I will open up the room to take your questions. I'll share some personal stories that I've never shared before from my own journey, and I'll even be doing some new music. So if you've been feeling stuck, unclear, I really want you in the room for this. You can go to RuslanKD.com or hit the pinned comment, and I can't wait to see you on this Godly Ambition tour starting April 10th in Chicago. Okay, this entire situation with regards to Trevor Sheets, who, I think that's how you say his last name, who posted a thing about his wife having a promiscuous past, and then Ben Shapiro and Michael Knowles and everybody had a take on this. And again, if this is an example of like everybody doesn't need to have a take on anything, I don't know what is. I know it's ironic me saying this while I'm having a take on this, but man, I'm standing with Trevor and his wife. They seem like a lovely couple. And there's some folks that have called out Michael Knowles, said that he mocked Trevor, slandered them. Ben Shapiro referring to Trevor's wife as a whore, even though he said that she was just promiscuous. So Matt Walsh chimed in on this. And, he had generally the most sensible take out of everybody involved. But I'll read this to you guys. And this, I think, kind of flows it all together with regards to this conversation that we're having today around relationships, looks maxing, women, hypergamy, the red pill stuff, right? This is the new red pill documentary. And some of this does bleed into other pockets. Some of this we could reasonably disagree. But this is what Matt Walsh says. He says, my take on the current discourse about the Christian men with the formerly promiscuous, in quotations, wife is that many of the comments towards the man and his wife have been uncharitable, cruel, and certainly unchristian. But also that Christians these days often tend to be far too eager to tell the entire world about their past sins, which in most cases shows a lack of discretion and a certain lack of the sort of shame one should feel even for repented sins. Okay, I think that's a reasonable take. I think there's one caveat in all of this, which is both of these folks were public figures. I discovered today that Trevor actually had some motion on Vine that his wife had been sharing her testimony publicly, I want to say for years, in terms of her coming out of the new age. And so these aren't just random people that are like, we're wild. And, and Trevor is like honest and like, I was on Vine and though I was a virgin, I wasn't pure. And that's another thing I think sometimes people conflate being a virgin with being pure. But anyway, Matt Walsh goes on to say, also, as a parent, I strongly believe that you generally should avoid telling your kids about your own wayward youth because the kids will take such stories as an indication that they too can go off and have fun sinning and things will turn out okay, but just as they did for you. Also, you undermine your own moral authority when you instruct your children not to do the very things you have admitted to having done yourself. Interesting take. Finally, the man's line about how his wife is more pure than most virgins is prideful and shows a kind of competitiveness and vanity that should simply not appear in any prodigal style testimony. Imagine if the prodigal son had returned and announced himself not only repentant but more pure than the brother who stayed. It would kind of destroy the point of the story. Okay, well, I think the part that Matt is confusing here is that just because somebody's a virgin, that doesn't necessarily make them pure, and just because somebody's not a virgin, that doesn't necessarily make them unpure, especially when you put time out in the situation. So let's follow his logical example. Prodigal son returns. Prodigal son is broken. Prodigal son surrenders his life to the father. Prodigal son serves. Fast forward a decade in the future, and the older brother is still a scumbag. He's still, you would that time you left and had wild living. And then he's puffed up, and he's egotistical, and he's arrogant. But we're a decade out. This lady got saved in 2017. This is 2026. It's almost a decade removed. She's sharing her testimony and people are still slamming her for it. I think in that sense, yes, the prodigal son would be more pure than the brother, the good brother who stayed behind but was prideful and not happy for his little brother coming back. I think that actually would play out and work against Matt's logic. Now, Trevor responded And Trevor's been responding to all this. Again, we did a reaction of him with Ray Comfort, which I thought was great. He says, Matt, thanks for the post, friend. I appreciate you calling out the harmful remarks to me and my bride. We don't hold it against them. We're also far worse than they know. I agree. Yeah. I don't like this need. I get the point of like, hey, like you don't have to keep constantly talking about how much of a wretched sinner you are. Like you're now on the other side of this. You're following Jesus. Yes, we still have sin that we struggle and wrestle with, but you guys are in much better places. You know, anyway, that's neither here nor there. I agree that some Christians are too eager to share the details of their past sins, and often it can be unwise, but I agree that discretion is important, and there should also be not to share the details of past wrongs. Proverbs 11:13. Okay, so he then goes on to say, but sharing details of our lives before Christ and how he's transformed us is biblical and brings great glory to God. And then he goes on to cite some scripture, Acts 26. Paul wrote paragraphs about his life before Jesus, going into great detail. So he's quoting just Bible at him, and that's the part is, you know, Matt's a Catholic, and they don't. Our gold standard for everything and the final authority for everything is Scripture. They're using the church and church history as other kind of ways to, you know, culture. How is this perceived? So on and so forth. So I get it, man. But this, you know, Trevor's not backing down, and I'm with him. There's more examples in Scripture of godly men and women's sins being explicitly written down, including sexual immorality, fornication. Yeah, I mean, like David's sins, right? Like that is embarrassing. Like everybody, we look up to David. There's shows being made about David. Yet David committed adultery and killed a man, right? Because of his lust. After he was already anointed by God. My point is that if God, through the scriptures, brings up the past sins of godly people to edify the saints, and if godly people in the Bible itself shared their past sins before Christ and how the gospel transformed them, how is it any different or inappropriate for my wife and I to agree to publicly share how she was promiscuous, but has now come and been saved and redeemed? Lastly, I unquestionably struggle with pride and vanity. That much is true, and I'm a great sinner. So I wouldn't be surprised if vanity and pride was in my heart as I wrote out that line about my wife being purer than virgins. Yeah, I mean, that's cool. He owned it. You know what I mean? I think I understood what he meant. But yes, that can come off, you know, in poor taste, to say the least. So praising my wife by saying she's more pure than virgins is aligned with that scripture says actually happened to godly women. More importantly, the principal desires my heart upon writing that she's more pure than most virgins was to underscore this key truth that biblical purity is much different than the world's understanding of purity. All right. And so, yeah, he goes on. Now, you also have Owen. I forgot. I don't know how to say Owen's last name, but he then calls out Michael Knowles. And he says, you 100% mock Trevor beyond a shadow of a doubt. And it's crystal clear that you did this, right? And this is them going back and forth. Michael Knowles is saying that, this is performance for you guys. And so he's like, you did mock him though, right? You mocked the Trevor Sheets sharing his wife's testimony when his wife publicly shared everything he said. She supported him in doing so. Sad, the doubling down. Michael Knowles said, right, I criticized him soberly, humorously, and in every way in between. I did not, as you dishonestly claimed, mock a couple or a woman or her testimony. I criticized a husband for speaking about his wife in a disrespectful and inappropriate way. Whatever the intention to millions of strangers on the internet, I objected to his contrasting his own virginity with her promiscuity. In fine, I would find his decision ill-advised. You might think it's acceptable or even admirable to talk about your wife that way to strangers. I don't. I'll give you the last word, Michael. Actually, I'll challenge you. Why don't you have Trevor? Yeah, let's do that. Come on, man. That'd be great. Have Trevor and Ashley on. I think that would be fantastic. I think that'd be great. Certainly did not. So they're going back and forth. But the thing that was called out with regards to Michael Knowles, he pointed out here, Owen pointed out that, like, one, Ashley has been sharing her testimony. He has this pinned up since 2019 about her testimony coming out of the New Age, her sexual immorality, all that sort of stuff. But then he rightfully points out, hey, Michael, question for you. When you interviewed Nala Ray, asked her lots of questions about her only days, addressing fetishes at one point, and got 1.1 million views, way more than most of your videos, was that in engagement farming, and was it discreet? And so Michael Knowles' response here was, when I interviewed Nala, she was a public figure who had publicly converted rather than a relatively private person whose husband contrasted her promiscuity to his virginity to millions of strangers. Yeah, listen, he could have been a virgin but still immoral with, or who knows what he was into. Someone else pointed out that a pastor talked about him cussing Trevor cussing him out. And so I think this back and forth is interesting. I think this is an interesting underpass with regards to how we perceive these things in our society regarding this. This video has, I mean, this post has 4,000 likes. So she's not a private person. She's not some random citizen. These are two public figures. Trevor comes from Vine. She has some motion on X. I don't know where else they're popular, but they're doing press around this stuff, right? And I'm assuming they didn't pull off an interview with Ray Comfort the day this went viral, and it was all pre-planned that quickly. I'm assuming it was pre-planned ahead of time. I'm not 100% sure about that, but these are public people who want to publicly share aspects of their story, and I don't think there's anything wrong with that. And so Allie Beth Stuckey has had her on. So this is interesting. Like, this is a divide that we're having, and it is interesting that on one side you have evangelicals and Protestants that are like, man, God redeems. We understand how you may not understand why someone wants to share this, but this is the truth of their story. And then on the other side, you have a lot of Catholics and a lot of conservatives that aren't Christian, like a Ben Shapiro, who are kind of railing on and piling on, which I just think is gross. I think what they should, I think the best thing is to say, hey, we didn't know she was a public person. We didn't know this was a part of her testimony that she shared publicly. So Trevor didn't just jump out the window and, talk about his wife's private life. He talked about his wife's public life, which he shared. Are bad, no harm, no foul. The issue, though, on a deeper level is right now, and again, I love Michael Knowles. I love the Daily Wire guys. Right now, in our context, don't apologize is absolutely one of the ethos in terms of how you are to navigate this online era. And I'm not saying they need to apologize, but I think it was unnecessary and a little bit out of pocket, if I'm going to be honest. And I'm glad that there's discourse around this. But listen, if someone's a public figure, they come from a past. They both have past, right? Trevor's out here crashing out, cussing out pastors. One of the pastors shared that. She was in a new age, in my opinion, coerced into some of this stuff. I'm not saying she's without sin or it wasn't her fault, but she was coerced in some of this stuff. She was 17, dating a 23-year-old, 17, messing with a 50-year-old. Those dudes are culpable, right? And they, I think, bear more responsibility than a 17-year-old minor, regardless of the age of consent. But within all of this, I think there's an interesting conversation happening about how we navigate these conversations, sexuality, purity, the view of women. And for guys, this is what guys have to deal with, right? If you've been a virgin and you meet a woman that did have several partners in her past, or say she had, quite a few partners because she was in a new age and doing all kinds of weird stuff, and then she gets saved, is celibate for a half a decade, is walking with Jesus, are you comfortable marrying someone like that? That is a personal choice everybody gets to decide, right? Trevor was, probably because Trevor also has a past. And then there's other people that are like, yeah, nah, like I'm good on that. I'd rather not, right? I'm a virgin. I want to marry a virgin. That's fine too. There's nothing wrong with preferences. The issue is when you take preferences and you then make them prescriptions for all people everywhere. In a perfect world, we would be in situations where, hey, I have a son. He's brought up in a Christian home. We monitor everything. And there are other folks around in our local church community that may have a daughter. And as they're getting into their late teens, there's a dynamic that incorporates the family, incorporates the community, incorporates the church, not as a way to control them and not as a way to like keep eyes on them, but to say, hey, if you are going to date, let's date with purpose. Educate yourself, read some books, develop yourself, become competent. And I've seen this work out very often. But the reality is not everyone's brought up in a Christian home. Not everyone's brought up following Jesus. Many of us have past. Many of us have testimonies. To act like just because someone has a past, that past can never be shared and you just go mess up your kids. I think that's a reach. My kids know, my 11-year-old knows parts of my story, and there's no aspects of it that are glorified. He understands that came with struggle and suffering, and there was consequences to my sin, and I think that's okay for kids to know. So those are my thoughts. Let me know what you guys think about that. And speaking of understanding who we were before Jesus, I think a lot of us have some of these distorted worldviews and these tensions towards relationships because we don't have a healthy understanding of the actual sacrifice of the cross, how Jesus makes us new, that all of us without Jesus are doomed and left to our own devices, whether that's promiscuity or whether that's drugs or whether that's just pride of life are jacked up. And so I saw this video and I thought this was appropriate in light of Easter happening this week in light of Good Friday and then Resurrection Sunday. I wanted to look at this. Passion of the Christ is an amazing movie depicting the crucifixion. And I thought this would be interesting to see. This is going viral. And yeah, give this some thought in terms of how brutal Jesus on the cross, dying for our sins, really was.
How long would you survive crucifixion? First, your hands and feet are nailed to the wood. The nails go through your wrists to support your weight. 10 minutes. Your body hangs downward. Breathing becomes difficult. To breathe.
So within 10 minutes, you end up hanging downwards and breathe, and you got to pull yourself up to breathe. Jeez Louise.
Breathe in. You must push yourself up using your legs.
Which probably hurts because you got those nails there.
Breathe out. You collapse back down. 1 hour. Your shoulders begin to dislocate from your body weight.
Ow! Man. Oh, this is so awful. Crucifixion was really an awful way to go, man. Goodness.
Arms stretch longer like Reed Richards. 6 hours. Carbon dioxide builds up in your blood. Your brain starts to panic from oxygen imbalance. 12 hours. Your muscles begin to lose nerve control.
At 6 hours, that starts happening. So you're just hanging there, just in pain. Every time you want to take a breath, you're struggling. What a torturous, terrible way to die.
Up in your blood. Your brain starts to panic from oxygen imbalance. 12 hours. Your muscles begin to lose nerve control. Severe muscle spasms and tremors begin. Your body can no longer coordinate proper breathing. 18 hours. Your diaphragm begins.
18 hours. Oh man, it's crazy that people were hanging on the cross for this long.
To fail. Your lungs can no longer fully expand. You start drifting in and out of consciousness. 24 hours. Your heart can't take no long. Cardiac arrest begins.
It says they were roughly 9 to 12 feet tall, weighing like 300 pounds that he carried for us. I lift wood every day, and this is heavy. I made one. Let me.
This man made a cross. Yeah.
And Jesus did that for you and I for multiple days while getting beat and whipped and stabbed and spit on.
Yeah. Yeah, I want to go in. So these are the questions. Like maybe this is a bit morbid for you guys, but shout out to Logos, giving all you guys a free 60-day trial. One of the things that's always fun, and this is not fun, but this is a question I'm curious, is I can go into Logos, and I'm not using ChatGPT or something that's just connected to the internet. I'm using Logos, which has all the scholarly sources and is like AI with biblical guardrails, if you will, right? So I can go in, I can say, how long did Jesus hang on the cross before he died? And let's see if they give me answers. So now Logos is working. This is in real time. And the cool thing is I have multiple chats. So I'll do these in the morning. If I have questions, and so what it's doing is it's searching, it's a library of books that I don't even own, but are within a library, and it's giving me answers. Okay, Jesus was crucified at 9 in the morning, and darkness covered the land from noon until 3 in the afternoon. It's according to scripture. It was 9 in the morning when they crucified him. And then it gives us at noon, darkness came across, right? He remained on the cross from approximately 9 a.m. until 3 p.m., a total of 6 hours. The gospel accounts mark this duration through specific time references. At 3 in the afternoon, Jesus cried out in a loud voice and then breathed his last at 3 in the afternoon. Okay. 3 of those 6 hours occurred in total darkness. Understanding the timeline requires accounting the different timekeeping systems used by the gospel writers. 2 systems of marking time appear in the Gospels. Matthew, Mark, and Luke use the Jewish system, while John uses the Roman system. According to the Jewish system, Christ's crucifixion began at 9 a.m. and then darkness lasted from 9 to 3 p.m. The relatively brief duration, so remember that video we looked at was talking about, 8 hours, 18 hours, right? And for Jesus, it was 6 hours. So the relatively brief duration compared to other crucifixion victims who sometimes survived for days reflects the extraordinary nature of Jesus' death. During the first 3 hours, Jesus was offered wine mixed with gall as an anesthetic, but he refused it. The language used indicates that Christ voluntarily gave his life as an act of his will. No one took it from him. And then you have the sources here. It's one of my favorite parts. It gives us the sources in terms of what this is saying, and then it's taking us to the actual citations of where this is coming from. Here's the macro idea, though. Verse 21, it says, God made him who had no sin to be sin for us so that in him we might become the righteousness of God. And then right before that, it tells us that we are therefore ambassadors. We are Christ's ambassadors, as though God were making his appeal through us. We implore you on Christ's behalf, be reconciled to God. And so that's the reality of this, is that, man, every single one of us has a debt of sin that needs to be paid. And if we're not going to pay that sin, someone has to. And Jesus willfully decided to go on the cross. And it's wild to think about how the worst crucifixion torture device from antiquity became a sign of hope and a sign of light and a sign of a new life for those of us that have placed our faith in Christ, though the reality of that is super brutal. And so, I don't know about you guys. I've always struggled with Good Friday service, but I think it's necessary for us to face the depth and the utter darkness of our sin and how far gone we really were, to then understand how much we've been illuminated and how much we've been transformed in our hearts and in our desires because of the work on the cross. This is a message that not only is true and historic, Jesus dying on the cross is a true and historic event, but this is a message that then impacts all of the broader conversations, right? So when you're seeing stories and they have a Christ avatar that is willing to lay down his life and die for people, the hero sacrificing himself, right? I think this all goes back to the Western canon, and specifically the Christian canon of the story of Jesus coming, living the life we couldn't live, dying the death we should have died on the cross in our place for our sins, rising on the third day so that we can be reconciled and put in a right standing with God. Friends, this is good news. This really is good news. And the good news is also that he doesn't just die on the cross, that he also rises on the third day. And then after he rises on the third day, he stays on earth for 40 days, showing himself to over 500 witnesses. And the disciples were convinced of this, and others were convinced of this, that the small town ends up having this massive Messiah figure that transforms Rome and then the known world. And one last addition is not just, okay, he saves us so we can go to heaven because life sucks, but he also gives us a new heart and new desires to help bring a piece of heaven on earth. That when we get the Holy Spirit, we are ambassadors. We are here to be a part of this ministry of reconciliation, to help usher in God's goodness, God's beauty, God's transcendent, to care for those, to love those, to be present with the least of these, to live sacrificial lives the same way Jesus did. And man, this is great news, friends. And in all of that, I think that does come back to every single one of us taking ownership, responsibility of the things that we can control in our lives so that we can be faithful with what we've been given. Every single one of us isn't going to be uber rich and successful. That is not what I'm saying. But I do feel like when we take ownership, accountability, responsibilities, and steward the time, the talent, the treasure every single one of us gets, that is when we can start transforming our local communities and leading the lives that other people who don't know Jesus see our lives transformed and see the type of lives that we live in. Like 1 Peter says, live such good lives among the non-believers that though they accuse you of doing wrong, they see your good deeds and may glorify God on the day he visits us, right? That it's our lives that is often the biggest testimony that we could ever share. And so hopefully this encourages you as we go into Easter. Hopefully you have some somber time to reflect, to think about the sacrifice Jesus made. And in that, if we go over to one of my favorite passages, which is Romans chapter 12, verse 1 and 2, it says, therefore I urge you, brothers and sisters, in view of God's mercy, to offer your bodies as a living sacrifice. So we understand God's mercy. We understand that Jesus died for our sins, but we're then called to offer our bodies as a living sacrifice, holy and pleasing to God. This is your true and proper worship. Do not conform to the pattern of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. Then you will be able to test and approve what God's will is, his good, pleasing, and perfect will. Okay, be transformed by the renewing of your mind. My question to every single one of us is, are you being transformed? Because yes, you're justified by grace. Jesus comes, lives the life we couldn't live, dies the death we should have died. It is by faith and grace. But in that, we also have some responsibility, and we have a process of cooperating with the Holy Spirit, and we have a process of aligning ourselves with the ways of God and living by God's ways, because not only is he good and he's worthy, but it's also good for us because he's a good and loving Father. So anyway, hopefully this encourages you guys. Let me know what you think about this. Again, friends, if you're not subscribed, make sure you hit that subscribe button. We looked at the back end analytics. Half of you guys that watch this channel regularly are not subscribed, and hit that subscribe button. Let me know where you're watching this from. And also, don't forget, those of you guys that are trying to figure out your calling, trying to figure out your purpose, trying to figure out what God has for you, you know you have something more that you want to do. Guys, the Godly Ambition Tour is starting April 10th, okay? We're getting close. April 10th at Park West. It's my first set of theater shows. I'm in Chicago, April 10th, and then I'm in the Pittsburgh area, April 12th. Then we head over to DC area, April 25th, New York, Los Angeles, Clearwater, which is the Tampa area, May 15th. And in May 16th, I'm in Atlanta, Houston. And basically what I'm trying to do is the concept from my book, Godly Ambition, which you guys should hopefully have at least heard about, USA Today bestseller, impacting tens of thousands of people to get clarity on your calling, on your purpose, on all these things. I'm taking these principles, I'm creating a live event experience where you can come in the room. I'm going to do a presentation breaking this down, giving you guys a framework of unlocking all this stuff for yourselves in terms of like, hey, I have faith, but sometimes I don't know what that practically looks like with regards to my calling. I'm going to break this down in a biblical framework. And one of the best feedbacks I get from the book is how, wow, I didn't know it was so biblical. It's so, drenched in scripture. Taking you guys through that and creating a live event experience where I'm also doing a live podcast, taking your guys' questions live in the room, so that could always go crazy. I'm introducing some new music. I'm sharing some personal stories I've never shared from my life before to hopefully help illuminate some of these ideas and help them come to life. I was tagged in a post recently. Oh man, this is, yikes. All right. So there's a gentleman asking my thought on this little meme video. I can't play the music of it. Let's take a look. So modern marriages are simply not worth it for men. All right, and this is where the red pill guys are trying to make a resurgence, is because they use a lot of these goofy arguments that are really anchored in selection bias, in the sense of like, what kind of women and what kind of men are you talking about, and where do they exist, and what cities are they in, and who are they around, and what do they do for fun? And this is the brain rot that comes out of it. Okay, so and then we're gonna talk about the crazy downstream effects of how this perceives. So I want marriage. Okay, guy says. I want kids. Okay, guy says. Okay, they have a kid. All right, it's good. So far, so good. Okay, he's now on a computer. Is he working? Is he playing video games? It doesn't matter. The woman is yelling at him, as if women are the only ones that yell. Now, I understand women can nag sometimes, and they are a little different, but sometimes men yell. So now he's doing his thing. Is he working? I don't know what he's doing, but she's yelling at him. Why is she yelling at him? We don't know. Is he looking at porn? If he got caught looking at porn, he should be yelled at. Is he working? Probably should be left alone. Is he working when he has a baby that he hasn't held in weeks? Probably should be yelled at. You see how nebulous these little thought experiments are? Okay, so she's yelling at him. Okay, she's making him do all the yard work. Okay, now he's digging a trench. He's working on plumbing. He's walking the dog, and I guess I don't know what he's doing here with this thing, but apparently he's moving dirt around. Okay, they don't show what the woman is doing. Generally speaking, women tend to take care of the house more. They tend to do laundry, they tend to do the cleaning, they tend to do the dishes, so on and so forth. And yeah, men would probably do more stuff like this, generally speaking, okay? Hey, this might be the most important thing I say in this video. I think a lot of us have been in seasons where we're trying to figure out, what am I actually supposed to be doing with my life? Like, we want to be faithful, we want to build something meaningful, but it's hard to get real clarity on our purpose, our direction, and what God's actually calling us to do. And if you've been struggling to figure that out, to get clarity, that's exactly why I'm doing the Godly Ambition Tour. We're kicking this off April 10th in Chicago, then April 12th in Pittsburgh, and these nights are designed to help you get clarity and actually move forward. This is what my book, Godly Ambition, is all about. It's currently a USA Today bestseller, and I wanted to bring these ideas into a live experience. I'm doing a full keynote, breaking this down and going deep. We've got new music, a live podcast. I'm taking your questions in the room, and I've got a few things up my sleeve for the night too. So yeah, I love seeing you guys in the comments. I love the chat, but this is one of those things where being in the room is just gonna hit different. So Tickets start at $35. And if you want to go even deeper, we've got premium tickets that include a private Q&A before the show. After Chicago and Pittsburgh, we'll also be hitting DC, New York, LA, Atlanta, and Tampa, so we might be coming to a city closer to you. But don't wait. Go to RuslanKD.com or hit the pinned comment and get your tickets now. I'll see you in the room. Okay, so he's doing this stuff, and he has to work. Okay. Well, unfortunately, there's a lot of people that bought into the myth that we have to have a dual income society. So does the wife work? We don't know. Does he make enough for the wife to work and so that she doesn't have to work? We don't know any of these things. All right. Okay, so now he comes home. He's tired. She's yelling at him. Okay, fair enough. Don't yell at your spouse when they come home after a long day's work. Don't nag. I think that's fair. Again, what is she doing? Who knows? Okay, so then he takes the kids to play. Good dad. All right, I like it. The romance is gone and he doesn't give me attention. Yeah, girl, you deserve better. Now, again, I understand that there are pagan people that carry themselves this way. I understand that there are couples and women that speak this way about their husbands. I can say that within my circle of followers of Jesus, we don't badmouth our spouses to our friends ever. And that is something we learned way back in premarital counseling. Especially the women don't badmouth their spouses either. There's a degree, maybe it's because we all read Love and Respect and understand that women want to be loved, men want to be respected. So this doesn't happen in my circle. Okay, so then Facebook comes along. You're so beautiful, I can't think about you. Stop, you know I'm married, right? And why does dude gotta be black? Why gotta be a black guy sliding into her DMs, okay? Everyone is racially ambiguous at this point because they're stick figures, and then a black dude shows up. He goes to play golf. He's trying to recharge. He's trying to relax. All right, he wants to go play golf with his buddy. She's yelling at him. Come on, let me come over for coffee while he's at work. Okay, but just for coffee and chat. Black guy comes over. Tyrone is now smashing the wife, okay? How could you do this to me? He made me feel special, okay? So what this is these types of videos, what they're doing is they're playing at men's worst insecurities. They're playing into men's worst insecurities. You're working hard. You're taking care of the family. You're taking care of the house. You go out for golf, and your wife, who I can't tell if she works, if she doesn't work, who's with the kids, when is this happening? But your wife is letting some dude pipe her down because women are just more uniquely sinful than men. They're just all promiscuous, hypergamous whores. Okay, or that's the modern women. You can, when you ask them for clarity on this and you cite statistics to them, they will be very selective with data they choose to accept and don't accept. And they aren't really clear on if this is nature or nurture, if this is the fifth wave feminism, or if it's just innate. All this stuff falls apart because these aren't serious conversations. These are entertainment little graphics meant to make you feel insecure as a dude, and to either red pill you or black pill you, which in my opinion are terrible alternatives. So she divorces him and gets all of his money. Now, again, the thing that people don't understand about divorce is there's a couple of things in divorce that happen. One, half of marriages don't end in divorce. That is nonsense. That is a false stat. That was a projection after no-fault divorce passed. And divorce rates never got that high. Divorce rates are between 35 and 40%. And that's counting people that have been married second, third, fourth times. So people that have been married multiple times tend to get divorced more. So that skews the numbers already. So the divorce rates are not 40%. They're not 50%. They're probably around the 30 to 35%. 1 out of 3 marriages ends in divorce. That's probably the number. But when you factor in people that have been married multiple times, it goes up higher and higher. It's never been 50%. That's a complete lie. The second thing people forget about divorce is child support. Yes, if the kids go live with the wife, and you're the main worker, she should be carrying and have funds for the kids. That's reasonable. Now, if you guys are both spending expenses, you can come to an agreement where that isn't happening. Another thing people forget about divorce is alimony. If a woman hits pause on her entire life and her entire career and her ability to earn income, and then she ends up getting divorced when she hasn't worked for 10 years or 20 years, and the husband has built out a skill set, a job, a business, a woman is now going to need some help getting off the ground, okay? Another thing that they forget about divorce is that men tend to do better after they've been divorced financially. They tend to level out better than women do financially, okay? This has been proven. The data is unanimous on this. men tend to land on their feet financially better than women. I think as well as emotionally, okay? Let's keep going, though. Okay, so now he's alone. There's a dog. Tyrone's over there smashing his wife, or his ex-wife at this point. The kids are going to hate me. We miss daddy, okay? So she starts lying to the kids. Your daddy is living a new life now. He doesn't have time for you. Now, there are women that do this. But again, one, let's work on becoming solid, competent men that love Jesus and also have other solid, competent men in their life that can help you spot these sorts of women before you end up in a serious relationship. A big issue that a lot of men have, before I deal with this, is that one, you're not loving Jesus, you're not in the church, you're not making the most of yourself, and so you are desperate to get into any sort of relationship. And then because you're isolated and you don't have real friends in your life that know you well enough to tell you the truth, before you even get into a relationship, you should have friends around you that can sniff out a chameleon that is faking the funk. That's acting like she wants a family when she really doesn't. That's acting like she's going to be committed to a one woman marriage for a lifetime. You should have friends in your life that can sniff that out. And this is the byproduct of church. And so before I started dating my wife, I brought her around, before it was serious, before we were dating, like before we had any physical contact, before we kissed, before we did anything, I brought my wife around some older men in my life I was 19 when we started dating. I had friends in my life that were 28 to 40 years old. They were my mentors. I brought them around. I kind of let us hang, and they got a read on her. They got a pulse on her. And she did the same thing. She brought me around some of her friends so that we knew, hey, we have friends in our lives that can help us with our blind spots. So many people don't do this, and they're susceptible to this, especially if you're a dude that's already came out of a terrible relationship. You don't know what you don't know, and oftentimes, by the time you introduce this person you're interested in to your friends who can see through them, it's too late. And so a lot of this is the selection issues. Where are you meeting these women? If you're meeting these women at the club, you're cooked. If you're meeting these women at the college and they're a liberal arts major, you're cooked, okay? If you're meeting these women in church and they come from good families, that's a different conversation, right? And so, this, in my opinion, is an issue of selection, and I think that the where red pill oversells itself is it generalizes women too broadly. This is what most of the internet oversells itself, if we're going to be honest. Most of the internet, most of the conversation online is it's just too general and too broad. All black people are criminals. All Jews control the money. All women are hypergamous and whores. These are the nonsensical positions that people end up believing that does, I would say, serious damage, because the reality is, most of you guys want to date, you want to get married, you want to have a family. I'm speaking to single people. And these sorts of things don't help you become the type of person that can manage and steward this well, okay? So these things exist. I'm not saying they don't exist. The question is, at what rate and what precautions are you taking? And do you have barriers in your life to prevent you from sliding into being with a woman that could turn into this sort of woman? That's the deeper question. This is why church and God is so amazing and so good for you. All right, let's keep going. Lively doesn't have time for you, so he's now drinking. We're going to work. It's your father's fault because he mistreated me and ignored me for years. And hey, man, sometimes this goes both ways. Sometimes men do mistreat women. Sometimes women mistreat women. Women mistreat men. This sort of stuff happens. Thank you for your support. What an a-hole. It sucks that you have to go through this. I'll always be there for you. So now she's getting more attention from men. On Facebook, your dad is probably out there with a new girlfriend while I take care of you kids. And then he's all alone. This guy's trying to come over. There's a dog. Again, this is playing at your worst insecurities. I'm depressed and lonely, and I don't know what to do. Try online dating. This is actually where it gets kind of funny. Try online dating. Okay, he tries online dating. Plenty of fish. And this is a little dated too. Don't even bother if you're shorter than 6'2" and don't have a hot body. Must have a lot of money and treat me like a princess. My kids always come first. Now, this is poking fun at the dating market and the delusional women out there that are overweight, single mothers, and have crazy unrealistic expectations to this. To dating. And this is where Kevin Samuels had a good amount of truth in what he was saying in terms of women's expectations. Yeah, if you're a single mom who's overweight, and you expect a man who's 6'2", a Chad, shredded, and is making six figures, you have some delusional expectations, sis. That is also true. We could be grown-ups, right? We could walk and chew gum at the same time. Okay, so then what happens? He's like, what the F? Okay, remember kids, daddy loves you and misses you a lot. Whatever, dad. We know that you have a new girlfriend and don't have time for us. New girlfriend? This dude is lonely. Why did you tell the kids that I had a new girlfriend and didn't have time for them? Because it's probably true, and don't try to talk ish about me to them or you'll never get to see them again. Okay. And so what is this situation? This is like a worst case scenario. Okay. Thank you for everyone for your support. What an a-hole. I'll always be there for you. And he's angry. Okay, so maybe he found her laptop and now he's mad. Okay, so this is playing into, again, men's worst insecurities. This is showing you a worst case scenario, and then it generalizes it to modern marriage. Here's the part that people live out. Divorce rates have actually went down. Men who are in marriages with families end up doing well mentally, physically, financially, in their career path. Here's another thing that people live out. Men, I said this earlier, men tend to do and land on their feet better after a divorce, even if it does come to a worst case scenario. Here's another thing that people live out. Worst case scenario, this goes down. Men who end up fighting for their kids in court end up winning a majority of the time if they take the time to fight for their kids in court. And this is data that's been known a lot. And what will happen in these red pill conversations is when you cite data, they'll reject the data. When you tell them the facts about this, they'll say, well, that's not true, or you don't quite understand how that works. And so what happens is you then get this distorted, perverted view of women, which keeps you being an incel longer than you have to be, instead of saying, hey, people are individuals. And there's all sorts of different types of women out there. And yes, there are women you should stay away from. And ladies, there are men that you should stay away from. However, if you're following Jesus, if you're developing yourself, if you're becoming the type of person that could be a solid spouse for someone, if you're developing useful skills so you can provide for a family. For 1 Timothy 5, chapter 5 says that he who does not provide for the needs of his family is worse than a non-believer and has denied the faith. If you're becoming these sorts of things and you're in a local church, odds are that will not be your situation. Odds are you won't experience the worst case scenario. Odds are you'll actually do fine. And when you look at the data and you look at practicing Christians, people who go to church and they love Jesus and they practice their faith, they pray together, they go to church, read the Bible, and you factor in people who are making an above average income, okay, which your income does naturally go up as you get older. Okay, they're making an above average income. They're practicing Christians. They're making an above average income. And you look at that and the divorce rates for those sorts of couples, they completely plummet off the cliff. The divorce rates ends up being in like the single digits. Okay, and this has been researched and studied. And so what happens is, again, these sorts of conversations are meant to make you feel insecure. Meanwhile, we see the fruit of the red pill. We see how. Well, You think the fresh and fit guys are happy in their relationships? Myron out here being caught up in multiple sugar daddy websites, Fresh out here caught up in paying for a woman to delete a baby that was his. You think they're happy? You think they're flourishing? And men in their late 30s, you think Andrew Tate is flourishing? You think these people are actually happy? And those are the wealthy versions. Think about all the people that are walking around here that aren't doing so well financially, and they've bought into this distorted, perverted view because they read Rational Male, but never took the time to watch my debate with him, Rollo Tomasi. This stuff is terrible for your soul, and it's not really debated on any sort of serious merits in terms of, hey, what did the scripture say about men and women? What does the data say about men and women? And what can you do to tip the scales in your favor? Like, just because 60% of Americans are overweight, that don't mean you gotta be overweight. Just because 60% of Americans are living paycheck to paycheck, that don't mean you gotta live paycheck to paycheck. Yes, I understand macro trends can exist. And again, and the data for divorce is way better than that. Like, you're way more likely to be overweight and struggling financially than you are to get divorced. Okay, so that's the hilarious part about all of this. And so what it does is it poisons young men's brains. And instead of spending their early 20s developing themselves, working on themselves, growing closer to God, becoming more useful, building up their bodies, understanding, hey, my 20s, I need to really hunker down, hustle, work hard, develop myself. Yes, rest and sleep and all those things are important too. But if you set up your 20s, your 30s and your 40s will be better. If you trick off your 20s because you want to go to the club like freaking Myron and Andrew Tate and Kristen and all these goofballs, yeah, your 30s and 40s are going to be a lot harder for you. You're going to have kids by multiple women. They're not going to be in the same household as you. You probably are going to be paying some child support. or you're going to be paying money directly to the women to take care of them. These are how these things pan out, right? And so this stuff is generally poisonous. That doesn't mean there's not a kernel of truth in it. It does not mean there's not a kernel of truth in it. But there is much better and more robust ways to navigate and live our life. And those are found in the scriptures and in a good local church community. Oh boy, the new Druski skit dropped last week, and it got your boy in trouble. Okay, it got me in trouble. I'm gonna explain why here in a second, because I was a little slow into what was actually happening in this skit, and that's no excuse, but I gotta take one on the chin. All right, so he comes out with this. This is the title of this is How Conservative Women in America Act. Okay, bunch of comments, people laughing. And he is dressed up like a white conservative woman. Okay, and then he, as a white woman, comes out and is like a explicit, ratchet. It sounds like a Meek Mill song or something playing. I don't know what song's playing. I'm not gonna play it to get the copyright. And so he's dancing, and then this is them asking her.
For all the soldiers and troops.
That's great that you're praying, but
And he keeps doing this, right? Soldiers and troops. And so the internet's going absolutely bonkers on this. Well, a lot of people are also pushing back, and they're saying, man, if a white person dressed up in blackface, it'd be a problem, but it's okay when people do it. And I understand that critique. I also think there's just it's just different, okay? Whether that's right or wrong, it just is what it is. And so he is now doing a press conference.
All the kids that died when the USA hit the towers.
It broke my heart. That is the
Okay, I'm watching this entire thing, and again, I'm not trying to make this about me because I think there's something really kind of sinister at play here. This dude is roasting Erika Kirk, or so it seems. And I didn't get this. I thought this was a broader critique of, like, upon watching this, and again, I'll tell you this and how I got in trouble, but let's play the rest of it. So he's, I mean, that's by the way, that's a lot of makeup. And if it weren't for the chin, he would almost pass for it.
I serve a righteous God.
So he's doing the stare. That's supposed to be the Erika Kirk stare.
And that is why we say our prayers. And we are all his children. But when I say children, I mean like the holy, blessed Trinity, which is why I hold the Bible.
Oh my gosh. All right, and then he goes back to this record of him there. And somebody pointed out, there's an entire concept of like black actors who have to put on dresses and how he was able to play a woman without putting on a dress. And that's a whole other cultural commentary within this and how he was able to pull it off, yada, yada, yada. He's thanking everybody, the sparklers flying, and this is him ordering
Ice matcha. And Bella will have all organic. Cup.
So to me, this is like a Valley Girl. Anyway.
Yes, everything organic.
Which, by the way, this is I love you in sign language. Some people know, some people don't. Some people think it's like an Illuminati sign. Erika Kirk threw it up. And people think that it means that she's in the Illuminati. He's doing Pilates or whatever this is.
7. Oh, Hannah, you good?
Hannah is the name.
3, 2.
Okay, so
We have to protect all men in America, especially all white men in America.
This is stuff that I've never even heard Erika say, right?
Those are the boys that we care about in this country. America is built on their backs.
I think protecting boys in America is different than protecting white men in America, but that's neither here nor there.
Yes. Because they are the ones who mattered most.
A couple things. One, it's wild how divided Erika Kirk has everybody, right? And I think it's pretty sad that so many people are taking shots at her. Having said that, I also kind of goofed up with this one. So my buddy Zach Rippey sent this to me, and he said he thought it was about Erika Kirk shot there with crazy eyes and stir reference. I said, oh no, yeah, the world's so divided on Candace versus Erika. He wrote this to me. He said, dang dog, you getting smoked in the comments. And I'm like, comments? I'm thinking he's talking about a YouTube video. Well, my dumb butt, I went and left a comment on that video, seeing it initially, midnight. My sleeping's all out of whack because I'm trying to finish an album for you guys. And I said, LOL, crying emoji, is this White Girls 3? I meant to say White Chicks 3. Another goof up on my thing. Christians can't laugh at nothing, even when it's clear comedy and skits. I just don't get the Christianity. Okay, whatever. I said, which comments? He said, the Druski one. I said, yeah, I checked. Didn't realize it was about Erika Kirk. I deleted it. We'll make a video about it today. All right, so I left crying emoji, and I said, what is this, White Girls? And so people, I didn't look at all the comments, and I do my best to not always look at comments. But long story short, some of the comments were like, oh, what, you mean white chicks? And then other people were like, oh, Ruslan came over to the dark side, and now he's with Team Candace and Druski making fun of a widow. And so I gotta take that on the chest. Upon watching that in the middle of the night, and I shouldn't have been on Instagram in the middle of the night. I don't have Instagram. I have the browser, and so when I'm on Instagram, it's the browser. I glanced at it, watched the first few seconds, thought it was like him reenacting white chicks. L on my part, left a comment, and then the next day realized that he's making fun of Erika Kirk after my buddy Zach pointed it out to me. And yeah, let's just say there was quite a lot of people that were not happy with me for seemingly laughing at folks making fun of Erika Kirk, which is understandable. I don't have any qualms with Erika Kirk. I think she's awesome, generally speaking. I've been open about me disagreeing with the halftime show, and I think the folks at Turning Point are mature enough to handle my critique there. But this was a bad look for me, and I messed up. And so anyway, I deleted the comment. I thought I deleted the comment when Zach pointed it out to me. Apparently, I can't delete the comment on my browser. I had to download the app, delete the comment, and that's how Druski's new skit got me in trouble with the Turning Point crowd, who is generally appreciative of my support for Turning Point. And so my apologies, I guess. I don't know. They say never apologize on the internet. But yeah, I didn't realize that was about Erika Kirk. Now, the deeper conversation is, I think, outside of me being a goober and not realizing it was about Erika Kirk and leaving a comment. I think the deeper conversation is just how polarized we really are. You know, like, we're in a really dark time where a widow whose husband passed away 7-8 months is under a microscope for every single little facial stare and hand throwing up of I love you in sign language, and her outfits and the pyrotechnics at a massive conference that her husband put on, who told her he wanted her to take over the organization. It just sucks how divided we are over everything. And Druski is a comedian, and I guess one of the things that is prevalent in comedy is no sacred cows. You just kind of get after everything and destroy everything and everyone. But I don't think that's the Christian frame. I don't think it was right for me to laugh at it. Again, unbeknownst to me, that it was about Erika. And it just sucks that this is why we're here. Like the polarization around Israel, the polarization around Charlie Kirk, then the polarization around Erika Kirk, her being something off, right? And it's like, man, I think if any of us were under that degree of microscope, also having gone through what she's gone through, any one of us could have our lives picked apart, and we'd probably come off a little weird or odd or have some idiosyncrasies and some things that people perhaps aren't understanding that's happening to her. And I think Erika is doing her best, on top of, like, the scriptures are pretty clear on how not to treat widows, okay? And people were like, oh, you can't keep using the grieving widow trope. I mean, it hasn't even been a year since Charlie passed. And I didn't know Charlie personally. I know some of the folks at Turning Point. I know some of the folks at Turning Point Faith. And I was hoping to meet Charlie at some point. And there was, some areas where we disagreed on that I was hoping to talk to him in person about. But generally speaking, I think Charlie was a net positive in the world. I think Charlie encouraged men to start families, get back into church, take their faith seriously, get married, have kids, all those things. are huge. It's the actual antithesis of what the woke right and the woke left is personifying, right? Victim mentality on both sides. And you've seen what's kind of, as the dam has been broken in terms of the stuff and the brain rot, right? The continued polarization, the continued rise and just absolute lack of shame by people within the political spheres. And it's just really gross. I don't like it here. Like, I don't know if this is where we stay forever or if you just got to curate your own algorithms and just stay the heck off of X. But like, I find this pretty gross. You know, Druski is going to try and be edgy. Comedians are going to try to be edgy. They're going to try to push the line. I don't think this was right. This isn't going to cost him any points with any of his core audience. I don't think he'd ever go on the equivalent of someone within the left. If this happened to a widow who was a liberal-leaning, high-profile Black woman, I don't think he would ever do anything like that to her. But these are the double standards that we operate in. It's okay to attack an Erika Kirk because, you know, she has some funny, weird stares or whatever the critique is. She now wants the spotlight, even though this was a succession plan all along. A lot of the press that people see her doing is her promoting Charlie's book after he passed. It's just like the world has the least charitable views. And I think this is the broader brain rot that I think so many people are succumbing to. And it's sad, man. It's gross. The internet is the best and the worst thing to happen to us. Okay, and this is what I mean. There's an app, I think one is called Mingle, but you could basically hop onto random conversations with random people and talk to them all across the world. People you normally would never be in a room with, you can now talk. And so this is peak what it looks like when people who should not have voices, should not be representing anybody, are engaging in society. So this is a gentleman, his name is The Moderate Case, okay? And a Palestinian and Muslim Arab woman hops on, then they start debating. This is an entire brilliant work. If I'm speaking straight content, this is a great content farming machine. You just find a hashtag of people you disagree. I'm gonna be honest, I'm tempted to try it. You find a hashtag of people you disagree with, and you just go at it, guns blazing, nonstop. And this gentleman brilliantly capitalized off of this moment. And this is one of those things that, like, I would say this app specifically is probably the worst thing that happened to Islam, and probably the best thing that happened for content creators that can get these owned moments. Let me explain and show you the clip.
Israel.
Yeah,
you're
because
probably a Trumper.
we're
So she says, you're probably a Trumper, aren't you?
against Islamic terrorism. We
Who's
defend
worse?
Israel.
Who's we?
Americans are against Islamic terrorism.
I'm an American, and I'm not against Islamic terrorism because
I'm an American and I'm not against Islamic terrorism? Now, to be fair, she does try and soften it.
that simply does not exist.
That simply does not exist. And she is serious, ladies and gentlemen.
Okay, if I pull up the GTI, the Global Terrorism Index, which is an independent database, it has the top 10 terrorist groups in the world, and they're all Islamic, and the top 10 biggest terror attacks.
Who created that statistic? Where?
And this is when you start mentioning facts. And this happens in a red pill. You point to a fact, you point to a statistic, you say something that completely makes their entire worldview fall apart. They go, well, where's the stat from? And where's the statistic from? And it's like, no. All of the terroristic organizations, or the top 10 of them, or whatever, the ones that are known globally, are all Islamic. Well, we don't believe that. Great, it's the Jews. The Jews created that. America created it. The Zionists created it.
are you going to get the statistic from?
It's independent.
Okay, here's the thing.
Boko
Yes,
Haram.
I did say earlier.
Here, I'll pull it up for you. Ready? GTI 2026, and you can look it up too. You're gonna
If
tell
it's
me
an American source, it's definitely false. America lies
it's
about
an
a lot of things.
independent.
You know Trump? You know the orange pedal
but
in office?
Hamas doesn't lie, right?
Okay, so she brings up Trump, the orange pedal. America lies about all things, and he says, but Hamas doesn't lie about it. Of course Hamas lies. Of course they're lying. And Hezbollah, of course, there's lying going around all around. Who's doing more than lying? I would say the Islamic radical terrorists that are willing to offer up their own people as human shields and not wear uniforms to confuse their general population and civilians with the fighters and, military. It's a big mess. I think those people lie way more than the West and America and Israel. But that's a minority view now. Like that seems like a sensible view. I would think that the guys doing the terrorist attacks and killing innocent people are more likely to be lying, on top of the fact that they have a caveat within their own Islamicism trait where they can lie and deceive if you're trying to do it for a greater good. Yeah, I'm going to think those people are going to be lying more than the people that drop leaflets and send text messages before they bomb a building, which again has been proven over and over again. But then you'll say, where's the proof? And then we'll show you the proof and we'll go, what's the source? Okay, so it's all brain rot, okay? I don't like it here. But nevertheless, we're here.
Dude, your prophet's a... I married a 6-year-old. Don't play...
Your prophet's a... We married a 6-year-old. That is a fact.
My prophet's a... First of all, he's not.
First of all, he's not.
Second of all...
How old was Aisha?
Isaiah dated Rebecca.
Now, remember, put a pin in that. She said he's not, okay? Now, just put a pin in that, because she's going to concede this point in a second.
Isaiah dated Rebecca.
Wasn't
Isaiah dated Rebecca. Wasn't Isaiah. Rebecca wasn't 3.
Isaac.
Rebecca wasn't 3. We can go over this.
Isaac was like 24, 22,
Rebecca
and then
wasn't
Rebecca
3.
was 16.
24 and 16? That's the same thing as 54 and 6?
Well, you're saying that my prophet's a pedophile.
24 and 16. 24 and 16 is legal in America today.
Okay, now that doesn't make it right, by the way. If you're a dude and you're 24 or 22 dating 16-year-old, you're a weirdo. You're a creep. I guess because the age of consent is legal in some states. Wait, let's look that up. Wow. States where the age of consent is 16. There's 30 states where the age of consent is 16. I did not know that. That's weird. Okay, that's weird. That doesn't make it right. Just because something is legal doesn't make it moral. And I think the context of this matters. This is what I'm saying. Say 200 years ago, there was families that lived on a farm across from each other. A 22-year-old grows up and, he meets a 16-year-old that lives one farm over, or maybe they kind of grew up amongst each other, and then all of a sudden they have eyes for each other and there's an arranged marriage-ish. That's a little different, right? 22, 16, 150 years ago, 200 years ago. There's less of a power imbalance in that context versus a 16-year-old sophomore in high school today and the conditioning and the cultural things he's going through, and a 22-year-old grown man who's done with college. Weird. There is a cultural component to this. I'm not saying it's all relative, but there is a cultural component to this that 150 years ago, 200 years ago, 500 years ago, 1,000 years ago, it was different. It was a different cultural dynamic. Now, he's saying that even still, that's not the same as a 56-year-old and a 6-year-old. And I would say he's right.
Isaac wasn't. Isaac wasn't a.
Do you really think?
Are you gonna let me talk? You're getting emotional. You think it's okay for a 54-year-old to marry a 6-year-old?
First of all, I'm not getting emotional. I'm not sensitive.
She's trying so hard to be based.
Okay. You think it's okay for a 54-year-old to marry a 6-year-old? Muhammad, your earliest sources, your Islamic scholars say he was 54. Aisha.
They can never get around this, guys. And she's gonna try, and it's gonna blow up in her face. You just watch.
It narrates in the hadith that she was 6.
Do you really think that every Muslim is going to live life exactly like how the Prophet did it?
Why?
Her answer is, yeah, I know he was 54 or 56 and he married a 6-year-old, but do you really think every Muslim is gonna live the way our Prophet did? That's your answer? We don't live like our Prophet? That's it? That's the response to that? Oh boy. Again, this is the worst thing that's ever happened to Islamic ideology.
He's the most perfect man now.
Obviously not, because let me finish.
Their scriptures say that he is the highest moral example of good, or something to that extent. I might be fumbling the exact terminology.
Is he time bound?
Obviously not. Obviously, let me finish.
Yeah, she keeps pointing the finger at the camera. Why is your finger so close to the camera, sis?
All right, the floor is yours.
So the Prophet was alive in the year 500, somewhere around there.
Yeah, this doesn't matter because he's supposed to set them. He's supposed to.
Let me finish. You're not even letting me finich.
I already know what you're gonna say. Oh, it was normal back then.
No,
it wasn't.
you're not. A lot of things back then were normal, but nowadays they're not normal.
He said that.
Her argument. I'm gonna let her finish. I'm laughing to keep from crying. This was normal back then, therefore it was okay then, but it's not okay. She has just twisted her morality into a pretzel because she's trying to have a modern Western view of morality that has an age of consent. 16 apparently in America. Some countries have it lower, some countries have it higher. I personally think it should be higher. I don't think 25-year-olds should be dating 16-year-olds. That's neither here nor there. She is saying that because once upon a time, normal, therefore, he wasn't the pet.
Let me talk.
I already addressed this.
Was normal.
So it was pet back then.
Okay, but back then it was normal. Times have changed.
Okay, so because it was okay.
Do you really think that you're gonna go on the cross and sacrifice your life for our sins?
Oh, and this is so sad going into Good Friday and Easter weekend. And Jesus did say, hey, if you want to follow me, you have to pick up your cross, die, and follow me. On top of which, according to certain accounts of church history, some of the apostles, specifically Peter, did get crucified. Legend has it he got crucified upside down because he didn't think he was worthy to die like his Lord. So yeah, certain Christians in certain contexts may be crucified for their faith. There was Turks during the Armenian genocide that crucified even Armenian women. That does come as a risk when you live in a Muslim-controlled empire. Yes.
Just like how Jesus did? No, because he was alive a long time ago.
I don't think that a human sacrifice for the atonement of sins.
That's what Christians believe. I'm talking in.
Yeah, we don't think today Christians should make human sacrifices today. Because Jesus paid the ultimate sacrifice. He dealt with all of it.
Christian terminology.
Okay, so you don't like whenever I cut you off, but you like to cut me off. Okay. But is Muhammad the most perfect man of all time?
So you are going off of
Is Muhammad the most perfect man of all time? Muhammad is considered to be the most perfect man of all time,
okay,
not bound by his time.
Okay, so if you want to bring up Muhammad,
yeah, you want to compare Jesus' life to Muhammad's and see who was a better person?
Yes, I believe
you don't want to compare Jesus to Muhammad because you know Jesus was a better person. Why was Jesus?
That's not true. That's not true. That's not true. The stereotypical Americans defend Israel.
Yeah.
Man, oh man, this is wild. I'm shocked. But it is not surprising. It's not surprising. So when people say, oh, that was okay back then, Muslims don't do it now, must I remind you that child marriage is very alive and well in the Islamic world today? Yes, it is, friends. Okay? It is not, we don't do that anymore. I mean, just Google I don't even want to, these photos are so sad. Just Google child marriage Islam and you will see tons and tons of photos of child brides. It is disgusting. It is utterly disgusting. Why? Because their prophet did it. And there are sects that do want to follow the Islam religion to the T, and those folks are unfortunately dabbling in the most awful things because that's what their prophet dabbled in. And that's dark, and that's sad. And I think that Christianity is just superior in every measurable way. The founder of the religion, the hero of the story, died for the villains. The hero of their story went and violently spread their religion through the sword while having tons of brides and marrying a 6-year-old, consummating the marriage when she was 9, which they cannot get out of that. That is what it is. And so as we are considering the current state of where we are, as we're considering the fact that, man, this is where we are. Like, talk about polarization, but now radicalized and polarized people have access to each other, right? But the good news is that the cross of Jesus still stands in the gap between our brokenness as people and who God is calling us to be in the next life, but also in this life. And again, as we enter Good Friday, I think these are some important things to reflect on.